Rivalry week is here. It is hard to believe. It feels like just yesterday we were talking New Mexico versus Montana State, trying to give you a handicap on that one. Florida State was getting shocked by Georgia Tech, and now Florida State's in at a 2-9 record this season. The Florida game just not even on anyone's radar this week. It's pretty insane what we've seen this year in college football and how quickly we've already been here. But as always, everyone, thank you for tuning in. Happy Thanksgiving. Recording this on Wednesday night. Appreciate everyone tuning in. We have great football this week coming up. Thursday night, we have a solid game with Memphis and Tulane. We got games all day Friday, and then, of course, we got games all day Saturday. Rivalry week is here, though. But welcome back, Joe. How are we? And excited for this upcoming week, especially after some chaos last week.
Yeah, I mean, this weekend obviously is one of the best weekends, if not the best of the whole season, rivalry weekend. But now, with all of the chaos, you all of a sudden have teams that, thought maybe had no chance are now all of a sudden back in it. South Carolina, Clemson, for example, that game is massive. You have the Iron Bowl, which already means so much, means that much more for Bama now. They need to win to potentially stay alive for a playoff spot. Texas Tech A&M is going to be a massive game. So many big rivalry games. A lot of, you saw some teams going on the road, like Tennessee going to Vandy. We'll talk about that's a crazy spot, but real exciting weekend. Looking forward to it. Ton of chaos last week. Really opened up this whole field. I'm really excited to get into it.
Yeah, so we won't really do a deep dive on the playoff. We'll kind of touch on some potential playoff teams or some teams on the outside looking in through the games. Instead of our normal 6 games of the week, we've got, I don't even know, Joe, I think close to 10. Just tried to put every matchup that really kind of matters this week into it. And then we wrap up with our dog of the day and lock of the week per usual. A 9-11 week from me, 3-3 straight up, 2-4 against the spread, 4-2 on the total. 0-1 on my dog of OK State and 0-1 on my lock of Bama, SMU, Notre Dame moneyline. Bama is a 14-point favorite, loses against Oklahoma. Joe, 11-9 week from you, 4-2 straight up, 3-3 against the spread, 4-2 on your totals. 0-1 on your dog with UCLA. I think they were +5. They lose by 6, I believe, to USC. And then 0-1 on your lock of Michigan State against Purdue. So an 0-4 week there for our dogs and our locks. Let's see if we can finish strong this week. All right, but we'll start it off. Saturday, the game. Michigan, 6-5. Super disappointing season coming off their national title. Will travel to Columbus to play the number 2 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes, who is 10-1. Noon kick on Fox. As always, Ohio State 20.5-point favorite. Over-under is 43.5, Joe. Any chance Michigan shocks the world and adds some chaos to the playoff mix with a win at Ohio State on Saturday?
I don't think so. I think Ohio State's going to dominate this game. I have them winning 45-14. I think they're going to get that over all on their own. I'm going to take them minus 20.5. And I'll spoil it. That's also my lock of the week. I really think Ohio State's just going to smash Michigan. Ryan Day has been embarrassed by them for far too long. Now he's coming off a massive win against Indiana. They want to kill Michigan and really punctuate, their disappointing season. I think Ohio State's going to roll here.
Yeah, one of the more annoying and I just think false narratives out there in college football right now is that Michigan owns this rivalry. They've won 3 in a row. Before that, Ohio State won 8 in a row. Michigan's had a nice little run here, nice little streak, and I know a lot of the narrative I think is dispelled around kind of Ryan Day and his inability to beat Michigan and win the big game and whatnot. But Ohio State, for our lifetime, Joe, has dominated this rivalry more than not. They've been the main character in this one. And I think they have 3 years of kind of built up frustration, pent up frustration, bulletin board material that's all they need in this one, pretty much. They're the much better team. And I think they're just going to put it on Michigan in this one. I agree with you. They're going to win this one and win this one big, cover that 20.5-point spread. I'm going to go Ohio State 31, Michigan 7. So Ohio State minus 20.5 and the under 43.5. I think Michigan's really going to struggle to move the ball on that Ohio State defense. All right, second game of the week. This is where I said we'll start to get into some more playoff talk as we go. But you got number 8 Tennessee at 9-2, traveling to Vandy 6-5. I think at the beginning of the year, Tennessee thought, we're sitting there 9-2, and all we got to do is most likely go to a 2 or 3 win Vandy team and knock them off when we're in the playoff. We'll be feeling good. But Vandy's been stingy this year. They've been feisty. Even just last week, they lose to LSU by 7. They've beaten Alabama this year. They've given some teams some really good fights. Do they have the potential to pull the upset here? This is a 12 noon kick on ABC. Tennessee's a 10.5-point favorite, over under 48.5. All Tennessee needs to do, sitting here at number 8, win this game, and they are in the playoff. Do they get it done, Joe?
Yeah, I think they're going to get it done, but I think it's going to be really close. I have Tennessee 24, Vandy 21. Really like Vandy plus 10.5 here. I like the under in this game as well. I just think Vandy is, a pretty good team. They've shown it. They've beaten Bama. They're sitting here at 6-5. I don't remember last time Vandy's been this good. Probably since when James Franklin was there back in the day.
Yeah, I think it was 2013. They were 9-3.
And we've seen Tennessee offensively struggle at times, even though their defense is really good. And that is still a question mark. Like, let's say Nico has a turnover early, or Vandy scores a touchdown first. Like, I don't know. I don't think Tennessee is going to blow out Vanderbilt. I really think Vandy's going to keep it within the number. I wouldn't be shocked if you see, you start the fourth quarter, it's 21, 17, Vandy's up on Tennessee, and people are saying, could this free up a spot for, Bama or South Carolina or Ole Miss or one of those teams down there? But I think Tennessee will get it done, beat a solid Vanderbilt team, and punch their ticket to the playoff.
Yeah, the only reason I'm a little scared to say Tennessee could cover in this one is the Diego Pavia magic. I guess there's two reasons, but also Tennessee potentially comes out there playing tight. Like I said, all they have to do is win. It's not in some of these circumstances, it's almost better. I feel like if you have another team you're counting on as well, you're all right, let's just go play our game, win, and then see what happens in that one. This is it's all on you, Tennessee. And that could lead you to kind of going out there playing tight, making some stupid mistakes. So for that reason, I think Vanderbilt's going to keep this one close, but I do think Tennessee's good enough, and I think that defense is good enough to not let Vanderbilt kind of run it up on them. You look at Tennessee's defensive line, you can make an argument the best in the country, and Vanderbilt really runs the football well. That's where they've had kind of some of their black magic success this year, that they've kind of pulled some stuff out of their ass, it seems like, at times. But I think Tennessee's defense is good enough to slow that down. I'll go Tennessee 27, Vandy 21. So I'll go Vandy plus 10.5, under 48.5, and Tennessee, we see them in the playoff as well. All right, number 15, South Carolina, 8-3, traveling to number 12, Clemson, 9-2, noon kick on ESPN. Clemson, 2.5-point favorite, over under is 49.5. And this is a game, too, a perfect product of the 12-team playoff. In past years, this is just a solid game. You're like, oh, this is a good game to watch to start off our day, whatnot. Now this game has still playoff implications. South Carolina going to need some major chaos, but you see Clemson sitting there at 12. There's a path for them to get in with a win here. Who knows what happens in the ACC title game or the ACC with SMU and Miami, but there's a path still for Clemson to make it to the ACC title game. But it's a good resume-boosting win, and they could sneak in and be that last team in with a win here. So, huge matchup, Joe. South Carolina have been playing really well. Who do you like in this one?
I like South Carolina here, and I feel like a lot of people like South Carolina. I feel like the public is on South Carolina in this one, but I don't really care. That doesn't really scare me away from it. I just think they're so much better than Clemson is this year. I have one 31-17. I'm going to take the Cox plus 2.5. Going to take the under 49.5. I really am going to probably stay away from the total. I don't really have a read on that, any which way. But for me, it simply comes down to, if you look at Clemson, they're 9-2, but they lost to Georgia. They lost to Louisville, who was at the time, I think Louisville was unranked. They popped back in the rankings. Now they're out of the rankings. This is only their second game against a team that is ranked at the time they play them.
Yep.
We saw what happened against Georgia. Louisville, probably the next best team on their schedule. If you want to include Pitt in there, but Pitt's now 7-4.
They needed a late touchdown in that one.
Yeah, Pitt's probably their best win on their schedule at 24-20. Same with at Virginia Tech. They just haven't, and it's not like Indiana was demolishing teams. Clemson hasn't really looked all that impressive, and they're sitting here at 12, I think partially because their name is the Clemson Tigers. If this was, let's say, Pittsburgh was sitting here at 9-2, playing, with the exact same results, exact same schedule, exact same roster, I think they might be home dogs. I like South Carolina in this game. I just think they've played much tougher opponents. They're more battle-tested, and I think going into Clemson is going to be, they're going to live up to the challenge. And on top of that, I think Dabo had a quote, the only school in South Carolina is Clemson or something like that, adding fuel to the fire for rivalry week. I saw something on Twitter, or maybe he was making a comment the real USC is, Southern California or something like that. But the only school that matters in South Carolina is Clemson or something. but I think the Gamecocks are going to come out, smash Clemson. I really hope they do because I do not want to see Clemson make the playoff because I think they'll get crushed in the first round.
I like South Carolina too, and I like the under. I think this is a defensive game. I'm going to go South Carolina 23, Clemson 20. So South Carolina plus 2.5, under 49.5. And the South Carolina wins are sitting there at 9-3. I still think it's going to be hard to put them in, having lost to Alabama. I feel like you'd have to put Alabama in over them. But if you, I think, polled people that watch college football religiously, and you said, all right, over the past 5 games, who are the best 5 to 6 teams in the country? I think South Carolina would make the list for a lot of teams. They've been playing really well. That defensive line's awesome. I hope for South Carolina's sake, they're able to retain these guys. I feel like they're going to be a heavy transfer team, like guys looking to transfer out. So hopefully they're able to retain them. But Lenora Sellers has been playing really well, and it's developed really well over the course of the year. I like them to win that game. I'm not a believer in this Clemson team, and having under 9.5 wins for Clemson as well would be the cherry on top. But give me South Carolina 23-20 in that one. All right, sticking in the ACC, number 6 Miami at 10-1, at Syracuse 8-3, 3:30 kick on ESPN. Miami 10.5 point favorite, over under 67.5. SMU has already punched their ticket to the ACC title game. With a win here, Miami would go and play SMU in the ACC title game. And Joe, correct me if I'm wrong. If Miami loses in this one, and it doesn't matter Clemson's result because it's not an ACC game, but Clemson would be going.
Yes, if Miami loses, they would go to 6-2. Clemson sitting at 7-1. They could lose by 80 points to South Carolina.
Yeah.
They would still be into the ACC championship game. I think because of that, you're going to see the ACC is going to try to protect. If there's a 50-50 call, it's going to go Miami's way kind of thing. Just because I think the ACC even realizes Miami has a better chance of getting a game, winning a game than Clemson does. But this Miami team with Cam Ward-Quill kind of reminds me like during March Madness, you have these teams that are good, not great. I know football's a little different because they are 10-1, but kind of like those teams that are on the bubble of maybe getting in or not, like Trae Young when he was at Oklahoma. Like Cam Ward is a stud. He is a star. No one's doubting his talent. But if he wasn't on this Miami team, they would be nowhere near the playoff. And I think that's going to kind of be the benefit of the doubt. If they win this game against Syracuse, they're going to get in, even if they lose in the ACC championship game, just because people are going to want to see Cam Ward play. And I think the committee realizes that. As much as they want to say best team and all that stuff, I think they realize too the value of viewership on the game. That being said, though, the Dome is going to be rocking. I will still call it the Carrier Dome. I'm not even going to call it the JMA Wireless Dome. That's so stupid. It's the Carrier Dome forever. Carrier Dome's going to be rocking. I think it's going to be a great game. I expect another Miami, miracle fourth quarter comeback touchdown. They've been getting out of these games a ton. Even the Wake Forest game, they woke up in the fourth quarter, had Wake Forest plus 24.5. That looked like the easiest win of the day. All of a sudden, it was a loser. I felt like your boy was a winner. I saw it. Like it was done. I wasn't even watching the game. I thought it was an easy win. But I might take Syracuse first half money line, or at least first half spread. I think, this will be a game that'll be very close at the half. I can see Miami, like I said, winning late, Cam Ward going on a game-winning drive, maybe even going for 2 to punch their ticket to the ACC championship game and perhaps the playoff.
Yeah, that happened against Duke as well. I think they were a 20.5 point favorite against Duke, and Duke was covering that whole time. And out of nowhere, like Miami has that weird ability.
That was when we were in Knoxville. I was on the other side of that. I had Miami that time. I thought it was dead, and they came back and won. But
yeah, that's Miami has that ability. They can score like 3 times in like 10 minutes. That's a reason why I really like the over in this game. When you look at Syracuse, what do they like to do? Go out and sling the ball around the yard. Kyle McCord in this game is going to go over 4,000 passing yards on the season, 26 touchdowns, but he's got 12 interceptions. But with throwing the ball as much as he does, it comes interceptions. And what do you have in the one game? 5 against Pitt or 4 against Pitt?
He had 5. That was bad.
Yeah, the Jared Goff game there. But I think when you look at Syracuse and when you look at Miami, if you're going to beat Miami, you got to be able to play in a shootout and go score for score with them. And Syracuse has the guys to do that. So I think Syracuse can keep it close. The way that they play, they're used to this kind of track meet style. This is the game that they want to play as well. but I just think Miami has a little bit too much talent there at the end of the day. But I do think this one is close and could certainly be one of the chaos games of the day. But I will go Miami to win 41-34. So Syracuse plus 10.5 over 67.5. All right, hit on this one quick. Cal 6-5 at 9. SMU, who is 10-1, already in the ACC title game, currently in the playoff now as well. Even just as an at-large, I thought a few weeks ago we would for sure only be getting one ACC team. Looks like we're probably going to get two, maybe even three. But this is a 3:30 kick on ESPN2. SMU 13.5-point favorite, over under 56.5. Can Cal keep this one close, Joe?
I don't think so. Cal, very emotional win against Stanford, their rival. I know, people are going to laugh when I say that quote, but that is a big rivalry game. It meant a lot. The only thing that does scare me in this game is the video of the equipment manager tackling the fan trying to steal the helmet. They seem to rally around that, but I think SMU is going to smash Cal. I have winning 38-21. I'm going to take SMU minus 13.5 over 56.5, just because if they want to kind of solidify their at-large argument, winning this game convincingly will go a long way. Like if they win this game by a field goal, there's going to be a lot of people out there saying, "Oh, look at this, the ACC," and people, the SEC protectors are going to freak out. Even though Cal beat Auburn, who just beat A&M, if you want to do that game, but I think SMU is going to win this game pretty convincingly, kind of because they have to. And playing at home, I'm assuming it'll be a sellout or close to it. SMU, this is the best SMU team of our lives. And, seeing them with a chance to go to the playoff is awesome. I love it. I think they're going to take care of Cal.
Yeah, I'm going to just take SMU to cover Cal to cover because Justin Wilcox is historically a very good coach as an underdog, but terrible as a favorite. Like, I'm not a big fan of this team at all. I was almost taking Stanford money line last week, and it was close, but a good thing just took the points there with that one. But yeah, SMU is in a interesting spot. Like, I agree. Like, they're going to want to keep their foot on the gas in this one. And they're also huge BYU fans. They want BYU to win on Saturday night, so their one loss looks a little bit better as well. But I'll have SMU win this one pretty comfortably, but Cal just keeps it within the number. I'll go 35-23. SMU wins. Cal plus 13.5 and the over of 56.5 there. All right. Couple more games at 3:30. Number 5 Notre Dame at 10-1 goes to USC 6-5. 3:30 kick on CBS. Notre Dame 7.5-point favorite, over under 51.5. Notre Dame in the similar spot as Tennessee. All they have to do is win and they're in. If they lose, are they definitely out, or are they a team that maybe they're the 11 or 12 seed? Thoughts on this matchup, Joe?
I think USC wins this game 24-21. I'm going to take USC to cover the 7.5. Love USC to cover the 7.5. That really pains me to say it as a Notre Dame fan. I hope they can pull it out and win, but this is tough. And you just played. People forget. I know they killed Army, but you just played in New York City. Now you got to go play in LA this week. I know you stop at home for a couple of days. But that's a lot of mileage to where. Meanwhile, USC hasn't had to leave the West Coast since they played Maryland back in October. Home against Rutgers, at Washington, home against Nebraska, and then they took a bus up to UCLA. So they've been home for a while. Notre Dame, a lot of travel. And Notre Dame, the one thing that people have been complaining about Notre Dame, and I understand it, Notre Dame has these wins against these ranked teams, but it was like they smashed Navy and Army, kind of proved that they weren't as good as people thought. Louisville was ranked at the time. They're unranked now. Like, you have these wins, but you're beating Virginia, you're beating Florida State, Georgia Tech without their starting quarterback. Like, how good is this Notre Dame team really? I think if they do win, it's going to be very close. I love USC to cover in this game, but this is a game I could see USC winning outright. Notre Dame would be out of the playoff if they lose this game, in my opinion, because then people will point to, okay, who they beat and they have a loss to NIU, they're done. So I think Notre Dame is going to get upset in this game.
Wow, I shocked. I know you always take whoever Notre Dame's playing to cover, but for them to lose outright, I'm pretty shocked to see that. I'll keep it simple. I've been on the Notre Dame train since that NIU loss. I said, look at their schedule. I still think they're going to win out and make the playoffs. I think they're a much more physical team than USC. The biggest thing with USC and Lincoln Riley teams, they're painted as soft, and I think that's why they've struggled in year one in the Big Ten. So I'm going to go Notre Dame 35, USC 14, Notre Dame minus 7.5, under 51.5. Just simply, when is the last time Notre Dame hasn't covered? They've been steamrolling everyone in sight. And they're continuing to look to add style points as well and kind of bump their seeding up if they can. If they get some more chaos throughout the week, who knows? This could be the number 5 team in the country once the playoff bracket comes out. So I like Notre Dame to win this one and win it comfortably. All right, we go down to the SEC now for the Iron Bowl. Number 13 Alabama at 8-3, hosting Auburn, who comes into this one at 5-6. 3:30 kick on ABC. Alabama 11.5-point favorite, over under 52.5. Auburn coming off a thrilling 4 overtime win against A&M. Alabama a devastating loss as a 14-point favorite on the road at Oklahoma. Do you think Alabama can bounce back and get this win at home, Joe?
I think so, but I think it's going to be close. I have Bama winning 41-37. I'll take Auburn to cover. Going to go with the over 52.5 here. But this is one of those games, like Bama could win by 50, or Auburn can come out and win by like multiple scores, and it wouldn't like really shock me if I'm being quite honest, because you don't know what Bama you're going to get. Like it's all dependent on how Milroe plays. If he gets the run game going, he's a pretty good quarterback, but when he can't get the running game going, like I'm not trying to like bash him, after a bad game, and like beat it in more, but he like looked like me trying to read a defense out there. Sometimes he goes out there and he looks totally lost. Other times he looks like the best quarterback in the country. It's just so like inconsistent. I know, him being at home in this rivalry game, it'll be good, but I feel like this game is going to be close. I think Bama's going to be able to pull it out just because I think they're more talented than Auburn at the end of the day. But it wouldn't shock me to see Auburn pull this off.
Yeah, and weird things have happened, and I think you could even point to last year's game. Like Jalen Milroe needed to pull some magic out of his ass at the end of the game to win that one, and Auburn almost had. And I think you can look at Auburn like they're the best worst team in college football, sitting there at 5-6. 0-3, I think, in one possession games. They've handed teams some games. This team could easily be sitting here in this spot at 8-3 right now instead of at 5-6. So I do like them to keep this one close. If it was at Auburn, I probably am taking Auburn to win that one. That's a hard game, I think, for Alabama to bounce back from. But Alabama has done a nice job of bouncing back after their losses this year. Of them win, keep themselves alive for the playoff, but they'll need some help in front of them. I'll go Bama 31, Auburn 24. Auburn plus 11.5 and the over of 52.5 there. All right, last 3:30 game. We go to the Big 12. Number 16, Arizona State at 9-2. Winning in spot to the Big 12 title game. Who would have thought that was a possible scenario at the beginning of the year? But they traveled to Arizona, their rival, who is 4-7. Very disappointing year. Won't be going to a bowl game. 3:30 kick on Fox. ASU the 9-point favorite, over under 53.5.
Yeah, it's very funny, Coyle. You kind of said it quick. Like I thought going into this game, looking at the calendar and the schedule and stuff in the preseason, we could have had almost an opposite. Like Arizona sneaking around, having a solid year, maybe trying to go to the playoff against a struggling Arizona State team. It's the complete opposite this year. I think Arizona State's going to win this game 35-24. Arizona State -9, over 53.5. Usually this would be prime like take Arizona, like the red blinking light, like you win an emotional game, nationally televised game to put you in this position if you're Arizona State. But I think they're just playing like for something with Kenny Dillingham. He has those guys so locked in and focused on continuing to win football games. And I do not think that he'll have them down in this rivalry game. I think he has them fully ready to go. I think Arizona State is going to be able to win this game. I think it's going to be a little bit bigger than the score that I have indicates. I think they're going to cover the 9 points. I like the over in this game. I think Arizona State wins this game, goes to the Big 12 championship, and they'll wait whoever. I think even 6-5, West Virginia is still alive for a Big 12 title game spot. So anything can happen right now, but I think Arizona State will win this game and be the home team in Dallas next weekend.
I'm going to keep it simple here. Best team against the spread in the country this year, Arizona State, 9-2. Worst team against the spread in the country this year, Arizona, 2-9. I'm going to have Arizona State winning this one 31-21. Arizona State -9, under 53.5 there. Arizona punches their ticket to the Big 12, Arizona State punches their ticket to the Big 12 title game, and is one of the stories of the year in college football. Let's go Sun Devils, and they win, and they go to the Big 12 title game. All right, we have 3 games left to get to, an SEC, a Big 12, and another Big 12. Number 3, Texas, 10-1, traveling to number 20, Texas A&M, 8-3, coming off that devastating 4 overtime loss out of Auburn last week. 7:30 kick on ABC. Texas, 6-point favorite here, over under 48.5. Is Quinn Ewers going to play? That still seems to be up in the air. Recording this on Wednesday, so we still have a few days to find out. But Joe, any chance Texas A&M can upset the Longhorns in this one, and the winner of this game goes to the SEC title game to play Georgia? I think a lot of people will be surprised if Texas A&M wins and they see them next week in the SEC title against Georgia. That I think will certainly raise some eyebrows. But do you like the Longhorns or the Aggies in this one?
I like the Aggies in this one just because it's in College Station. If this game was in Austin, I'd be saying a completely different story. But I like A&M here 21-18. I think this game is going to be low scoring. I like the under. I love A&M +6. I just think, and last week Mike Elko said, "Oh, we're focusing on Texas. I mean Auburn." Like, this game has been circled forever. This is the game for them. This is their Super Bowl. They win, they still control their own destiny at this point, which is crazy. If you told A&M fans in the preseason going into this game, you'd be able to control your own destiny for the playoff, I think they would take it no matter what. Even if, they win the SEC and they're maybe the 3 seed, which would be kind of crazy to see the SEC champ getting a 3 seed there. I think they're going to win this game. I will say, though, if Texas wins, I'm calling my shot now. Quinn Ewers starts, gets hurt. Arch Manning comes in, leads a game-winning drive, and that will be Texas porn all offseason, getting ready for next year. I'm calling my shot now. I think something crazy is going to happen either way, but I think A&M will win this game close.
I'm going to go A&M as well. I'm going to take them 24-23, so even a little closer than you. I think when you look at Texas, what did they really struggle with in that one loss against Georgia? Handling Georgia's defensive line and pass rush. Texas A&M, I think that's the best part of their team, their defensive linemen, and the way that they can get after the quarterback. And especially if Quinn Ewers does have a bum ankle, that's something that Texas A&M, I think, is going to key in on. You best bet every quarterback hit, every chance to get a hit on the quarterback, they're probably going low. And as Josh Nichols said, somebody snatched my ankle. But in this kind of scenario, but I think this is a scenario where Texas A&M can certainly be a live dog in this game. And I feel like all season, the hype and the buildup of this one is, the environment's going to be insane. Like, this is one you'll go on Twitter and be like, the cheapest ticket to get into Texas A&M, Texas is $1,500. All right, well, if we're going to talk all this much about this crazy environment, I feel like you have to account for that in this game and in your handicap, in your prediction to it. So I think the home crowd plays a real big role in this one. It's a huge game, and for the opportunity for Texas A&M to kind of get the monkey off their back of, we can't win a big one, or the home field is like a myth, really, kind of in terms of they lost that Notre Dame game at the beginning of the year to start off the season. So a huge game, as we said, winner goes to the SEC title game. But I'm going to have the Aggies win, and I think the Longhorns are kind of in a sweat position at 10-2 with their resume. Is that resume good enough to make the playoff? It'll be interesting to see. But A&M 24 at Texas 23, A&M +6 under 48.5. All right, 2 Big 12 games to wrap us up, Joe. 24 Kansas State at 8-3, at number 18 Iowa State 9-2, 7:30 kick on Fox. Iowa State 2.5-point favorite, over under 51.5. Iowa State, they're in a win-and-in situation as well. I still believe Kansas is alive. I think they have to win this one, and I think they need BYU to lose and potentially even Colorado to lose as well. But thoughts on this matchup, and are McClay's Cyclones going to the title game?
Farmageddon. I'm very excited for this game. I do think Kansas State is going to win, unfortunately, 27-24. It just seems like Iowa State, ever since the UCF game, when I had them as my lock of the week, they needed a game-winning drive to beat UCF 38-35. They lose by a point to Texas Tech, 23-22. They lose at Kansas, which started Kansas's, crazy ride. Then, you beat Cincinnati. Then even like Utah, you win 31-28 against a terrible 1-7 Big 12 Utah team that's 4-7 overall. I mean, you survive late. They've been the cardiac clones all season long. I keep texting McClay this, and I keep tweeting at him on Twitter. They beat Iowa by a point. I just think they're going to lose this game in heartbreaking fashion. It's either going to be they're going to win this game in crazy heartbreak, like for Kansas State, or they're going to lose in heartbreaking fashion. But Kansas State Coyle would need to win this game. I think they would need either Arizona State or Colorado to lose, and then BYU to lose to set up. I mean, you could have a 9-way tie at 5-3, in the Big 12, which is crazy.
Yeah, it says there are still 9 teams mathematically alive to reach the Big 12 championship game. I know the
Which,
most simple scenario, though, is just Arizona State and Iowa State win. That's the game.
yes, I think they said it's if only 2 teams that are 6-2 win, it'll be those 2, and then it goes to shit from there. But I think Kansas State's going to win this game close. I hope I'm wrong. I would love to see Iowa State, Arizona State for a playoff berth. That would be fantastic. But I'm just going to rock with Kansas State here in a close one.
I'll rock with the home team here. Iowa State, I think you touched on it at the beginning best. Like, they've had some crazy games this year. It feels like they've been down. I remember that Iowa game at the beginning of the year was a really crazy comeback. And Iowa State has struggled the past few weeks, but this is a spot at home. You have a chance to pretty much punch your ticket here to a Big 12 title game. I think they find a way to get this one done. I will say that Kansas State certainly can be a live dog in this one, and it wouldn't surprise me at all. But I'm going to go and back the home team here. I think Rocco Becht makes a couple plays down the stretch, and the home team gets it done. It's awesome to see Iowa State kind of bounce back after having a few down years. But I'm going to go Iowa State 27, Kansas State 23. Iowa State minus 2.5, under 51.5 there. And our final game, Joe, I think I know where you're going with this one, but just for purposes of a meaningful game, Houston 4-7 at number 19, BYU 9-2, 10:15 kick on ESPN. BYU 12.5-point favorite, over under 41.5. BYU, I think their easiest path is an Arizona State win coupled with a Kansas State win. And then I believe it would be an Arizona State BYU rematch from last week in the Big 12 title game.
Yeah, I'm going to go BYU 38, Houston 17. I think they're going to play pissed off. Tough last couple of weeks. If, the age-old story, if there was another quarter in that game, BYU, I think, would have beaten Arizona State. I know that's not how it works. But
maybe another Hail Mary, too.
Yeah, I mean, they were definitely playing, much better in that second half. I think they're going to come home senior night. I think they're going to kill Houston, who's just been having a tough year. I saw they just fired their OC. Houston's kind of ready to just pack it in. I'm going to go with BYU minus 12.5. I'm going to take the over in this game because I think BYU finally wakes up scoring-wise. I think they're going to get close to the number on their own.
Yeah, so that's a really weird low-scoring total. BYU, you said it kind of too, over the second half of the game last week looked a little bit more like themselves from earlier in the year. I'm going to go BYU to win, but Houston to keep it close. BYU in kind of that Tennessee, Notre Dame spot where it's like they just got to win. Like, you can't worry about anything else, just win, and that gives themselves a chance. And they'll know pretty much going into their game. Maybe it might be in the first quarter, wrapping up this Kansas State Iowa State game, but being the last game of the night, they're in the position best to know what their scenario is. So that's something I think certainly worth monitoring. Maybe not even bet this game at the beginning, because if BYU doesn't have a chance to even make the Big 12 title game, maybe look to bench in there and an unmotivated BYU team. But I'm going to go BYU 28, Houston 21, Houston plus 12.5 and over 41.5 there. All right, dog of the day. I'll save you your breath, Joe. We both talked about our games already. My dog is Syracuse plus 10.5 at home against Miami. I think they got the passing offense to keep up with Miami and make this a game. I think they keep it close. And you're going with USC plus 7.5. You have USC winning that one outright. So that would be certainly a shocking an upset and a game that adds a lot of chaos to the current college football playoff landscape. And our final lock of the week of the regular season, Joe. Never thought I would come on the show saying this one, but I'm going with Nebraska, Iowa, over 39.5. Of course, because I'm saying this, we're going to get an old-fashioned 10-7, 13-6 type of game. But Iowa is 9-2 to the over this year. That is the best in the country. And Nebraska is averaging 32 points per game over their last 2 games since they put Dana Holgorsen in there at offensive coordinator. They put up 44 last week against Wisconsin, and the offenses looked a little bit better since they made the change from Satterfield before. So Nebraska, Iowa, over 39.5, my lock of the week there. So that will be a 20-point total game.
Yeah, most likely. I'm going to go Ohio State minus 20.5. I mean, I said it. I think they're going to smash Michigan. That's my lock of the week. You already said it for me. USC plus 7.5 is my dog. But it's crazy that we're here last week of the regular season. Next week, we got conference championship games. Playoff will be revealed next Sunday. Crazy. It's already Thanksgiving. Like I was saying last week, it feels like it was just yesterday. I was sitting there sweating out SMU and Nevada like a lunatic. but here we are now getting ready for rivalry weekend. Also, honorable mention for a lock of the week: Tulane minus 13.5 against Memphis. I think they're another team all of a sudden, alive for a potential
Yeah.
getting that fifth playoff bid. But they would help their case by smashing Memphis, which I think they'll do on Thanksgiving night.
Yeah, I like the over in that game as well, 56.
Mhm.
Memphis can put up some points too. But yeah, we still got a few more meaningful episodes to come. We haven't really done much bowl stuff, but we don't need to anymore with the playoff coming up.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be exciting once Selection Sunday next week, maybe even hop on Monday next week and kind of break down the bracket after the episode or after the entire bracket comes out. But we got conference championships to talk next week and some meaningful games. But as always, everyone, thank you for tuning in. As always, please like, subscribe, enjoy your Thanksgiving, enjoy the football, and we will talk next week for some conference titles.